This is the plaintiff, Denise Petrillo. She said she had a leak coming through the bathroom ceiling of a condo she rents out, and the defendants did nothing to correct the plumbing problems from the unit above hers, which caused all the problems. She was forced to hire her own repairman to fix the ceiling tiles in her unit. The defendants refused to repair the upstairs issues for 4 months, and she's suing them for the $5,000 she certainly owed for their outrageous behavior. These are the defendants, Alan Barbarino and John Malik. Alan says he and the owner, John, worked to resolve the plumbing issues in John's bathroom, which is located above the plaintiff's. The repairs were made expeditiously, and he finds it funny this plaintiff is suing them for $5,000 when they did exactly what they were supposed to. They're accused of being all wet.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff is suing the defendants, claiming that they had a leak in their apartment above her, and all of a sudden, water started coming down from her ceiling into her place, damaging it. But the defendants say they responded as fast as humanly possible and fixed the leak, so they owe nothing. It's the case of being all wet.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Ms. Petrillo, how are you today?
Fine, how are you?
Good, thank you. So you own an apartment. What's the number for that apartment?
C10.
Okay, and then right above you on C20, Mr. Malik, I believe. How are you today? I believe you own the apartment. Good, thank you. Right above C10, you own C20, correct?
That is correct.
Do you live there or you rent it out?
I rent it out.
Okay, and you also rent it out, right, Ms. Petrillo?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you get a phone call from your tenant or text from your tenant that says, hey, there's a leak coming from up above the shower. And what do?
So on February 26th, I contacted the board, property management, and John.
Okay, so Mr. Malik, when do you learn that there's a leak coming? Does Mr. Barbarino from the management company call you or what?
Yes.
When did he notify you?
I don't know the exact date, but it was somewhere around the end of February or the first couple of days in March. I do know that on March 4th, I sent an email to Barbarino, Steve Goldberg, and I believe Denise, saying that I checked out my unit and that the water was not coming from my fixtures in my unit, but it was coming from the waste pipe below my bathtub between the two units.
Okay, well,
So
how
was
did
on
you
March
conclude
4th.
all those things?
I submitted a picture, which you should have, which shows the old waste pipe above Denise's ceiling leaking.
Okay, so the waste pipe is something that you can see above ground. How is it you're able to picture this waste pipe? Where is that?
Denise has a false ceiling. She has a drop ceiling in her bathroom, so all you have to do is pop out the tile.
So we see, I have a picture of that waste pipe, and it looks to me certainly like there is a leak there. So you alert Mr. Barbarino to that and tell them this is a common area homeowners association issue, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Barbarino.
Yes.
So he sends you that email on March 4th, and what do?
So I think at that point we sent we sent a plumber down.
On what date did the plumber go out there?
So I'd like to defer to my witness.
Put your witness on. Hi, what's your name?
Stephen Goldberg,
And what is your position?
president of the condo association.
Do you actually have a specific recollection of what day the plumber came?
I recall it to be around 3 days after the date that Denise had notified us.
Your Honor, I could shed some light on this.
Go ahead.
I submitted as evidence a copy of the invoice from the plumber with date April 13th. So obviously the work was completed by then.
That is a plumber invoice for $279.34, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and did that plumber then on the 16th of March fix that waste pipe?
Yes, he did, and you have a picture of the new pipe.
Yes, I do. All right. So then when is the next time that, Ms. Petrillo, according to you, there's a continued problem?
Okay. I have March 19th. The water is dripping, and it is dripping from upstairs.
So the
And
way
my
you learn,
tenant-
hold on, your tenant sends you a text on March 19th, just a few days later, showing you that the water is dripping. So what did you do?
I sent a email to Alan Barbarino.
When did you send the email to Mr. Barbarino?
Okay, it looks like on March 20th.
Okay, and then what happens?
Nothing.
So hold on one
Okay,
second, because I want to see the March email. You reach out to them on March 22nd saying, Alan, it is getting worse. Steve and the plumber are aware. And you send a picture. And there's no communication by email in between those dates. Mr. Barbarino, what happened between March 20th and April, the next email that I have?
So one of the things you have to understand about 50-year-old buildings, that sometimes it's a trial and error trying to fix these things.
No, I understand that. That's why I have to see the trial and error. That's why I asked you, and if you don't know, I will refer to Mr. Malik. Back to you. Okay,
Yes.
Do you know what, if anything, happened between March 20th and April 23rd, or would it be fair to say, not your problem, because it was a waste pipe?
No, I went over there sometime, I don't know the exact date, sometime the end of March, early April. And
Okay.
when I was notified that, water had leaked, what I found out was my tenant took a shower and inadvertently somehow left the shower curtain outside the bathtub instead of in the bathtub. And so that
Okay,
video
so this was a second leak that was caused by a different issue.
correct. It was a one-time occurrence when that video was taken.
Okay. And in fact, I see a text from your tenant to you, Ms. Petrillo, that says, hi, so John just left here. He says the ceiling tile is bone dry, so it may be from the tenant upstairs not pulling the shower curtain all the way. On April 20th, she says, listen, this tile is still wet in the center, so there's still a leak coming. You send that on April 20th to Alan, and what happens, Ms. Petrillo?
Then I find out that they're going to speak to Steve about getting tiles for the drop ceiling.
Right, but there's still a leak. So, Mr. Malik, let me ask you a question. Did you ever end up going back into the tenant's place in late April when she says, hey, it's still leaking, which I think is a third time? Did you ever go over there and take a look to see what's going on?
I did. I ran the water upstairs and for a long time to make sure that there was no drips I could see. And I went up, I made arrangements to go into my unit the next day, and I re-caulked around the bathtub. My guess at that time, not seeing any obvious leaks, that when someone's sitting in the bathtub, standing there taking a shower, water bounces them off them, there may be somehow getting downstairs. So I re-caulked along the bathtub, which I submitted a picture to you, and I checked the ceramic tiles.
Is this it?
Correct.
Okay. Caulking is not your day job, is it?
No.
Here's what I don't get. Here's a picture of the tenant showing you all the mold growing on the ceiling tile. These things are $6 at Home Depot. Why doesn't somebody go to Home Depot, buy these, pop them out, and put new ones so she's not breathing in the mold?
No, I didn't mind doing it. I didn't mind doing it at all. As a matter of fact, I called on the 29th, what's going on? I didn't get any response, so I just called a contractor and I told him, please go over, do the job.
And then the contractor charged her $165 to replace these tiles. Can I ask everybody on the defendant's side a question? Mr. Barbarino or Mr. Goldberg, can you tell me why between May 8th and June 7th, nobody went over there to just pop out those $6 ceiling tiles and replace it so that poor tenant and her roommate didn't have to smell and look at mold, and it finally got so bad that the thing actually deteriorated?
At our condo complex, we do not have a maintenance man on staff. We only use subcontractors. So we had to then have Denise have a contractor and reimburse her, since there's nobody else that's going to do it. Same thing, the property manager.
Ms. Petrillo, address what Mr. Goldberg is saying. He's saying that they'll reimburse you, but it was your job to do it. Do you have an email or do you have a text from anybody where someone from management was saying, we'll take care of that?
Yes, I have a email from Diane telling me that Steve was working on getting the tiles, and that was on May 21st. On May 29th, I said to her, what's going on with the tiles? On June 1st, she told me that she's checking on it And on June 3rd, I had just had enough of it. And I said, I'll just look for someone to do it. And I didn't want my tenant breathing all this in.
No, right, Mr. Goldberg. Why doesn't anybody replace this lady's ceiling tiles between March 8th and June 7th?
What's it matter? She hired a contractor and we reimbursed. We don't have contractors.
Because I'm going to tell you what's it matter. Her entire lawsuit is based on you guys dragging your feet. That a problem happened in late February and it was June, and you said you were going to fix the tiles and you didn't. And therefore her tenant had to live with mold. So that's why you got sued. That's why she says it matters. But by the way, is it fixed now?
The leak isn't fixed, but the
what do you mean it's not fixed?
No, we still have stains. Mr. John came by and he painted it, but he didn't treat it.
Mr. Barberino, talk to me and tell me what do you think is the continued problem here if there's still moisture, and what are we going to do about it?
So sometimes what happens in these buildings, the pipes do start to condense in the warmer weather. The other situation that we have here is that we have a tenant upstairs who sometimes lets water on the floor as a result of not putting a shower curtain or something out. Happens quite frequently. It's hard to believe. So, I think the plumbing issue was settled because, and I think actually, quite honestly, this is going to be an ongoing problem with the tenant's behavior upstairs. So I don't know. I think we've solved the plumbing problem.
So if I read you correctly, you feel you've solved the waste pipe issue and this is a tenant issue. And if I read Mr. Malik correctly, he feels that he's educated his tenant and that it could be condensation. But the only people who keep suffering is your tenant, which brings me to my next question, Ms. Petrillo. How is it that you are suing for $5,000? You're suing for punitive damages because what? Because Mr. Barberino ignored your bill for 2 months and didn't pay it. I mean, that's not very nice, but how does that translate to $5,000 for you? You don't even live there. It's a tenant who lives there.
Welcome back to the People's Court. A big fight over a leak in an apartment building. Who committed the H2O no-no? Let's go back into the courtroom.
I never submitted a bill. I just took it upon myself to go ahead and do it.
If you didn't submit a bill, how are they going to pay you?
I wasn't going after them for this payment. I was waiting to see what would happen with my tenant ceiling.
Ms. Petrillo, what is happening with your tenant ceiling? Answer my question. What is happening? Is your tenant there or no?
Yes, she's right here. She's my witness.
Bring me your tenant. Bring me your tenant. Switch places with her. All right, darling. What's your name?
Jessica Pruitt.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, ma'am. Here is the pleasure of my bailiff's company.
All right, let me get you to raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to need you to tell me, is that leak fixed now or isn't it?
As of right now, that leak is not fixed. As of June 9th, I sent my landlord pictures of the leak still coming, the water stain still coming down on the tile.
Do you actually see water dripping since June 9th?
As of June 9th, I have not seen water dripping because the tenants have not been upstairs. They haven't been living upstairs.
Oh, good. They're gone, Mr. Malik?
They're not 100% gone, but they haven't been there for about...
I'm sorry, Mr. Malik, is that tenant gone or no?
No, they still live there.
Okay. Because I'd like the problem to get solved, right? That's the most important thing. So the water stain is growing, but since June 9th, you have not seen any more water dripping. Would that be correct to say?
Not coming through the ceiling tile. Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Is it coming from somewhere else?
You can hear it hitting the ceiling tile.
You hear that when the shower's going?
When they're taking a shower.
Or you hear that all the time?
When they're taking a shower.
Mr. Malik, that doesn't tell us whether it's your tenants who refuse to put the shower curtain on the inside of the tub, or whether it's the repair that didn't work, or whether it's condensation, and it's a problem that everyone in that building's gonna have. That doesn't answer for us what the problem is, does it?
No, until I have a chance to make arrangements to go back over there and
make a chance, okay? I need Mr. Barberino and you to listen carefully to what I'm gonna tell you. I know what old buildings are like. I come from a long family of building owners and contractors. I know that it is not snap your fingers and you get a solution. I get it, okay? But also, as I look at the trajectory of this case, there are several instances where it seems like, maybe things could have happened quicker. Now, according to the tenant, there is a continued issue, and the water stains keep expanding. And I don't know whether it is, as Mr. Barberino says, a tenant-driven issue because your tenant won't put the shower curtain in, or, as Mr. Malik says, somebody has to go look at the pipe. Let me make a suggestion, Mr. Malik. It might be in your interest to go down there and look at the pipe, and let me make a direct order, Mr. Barberino, that you as property manager, somebody needs to go down there, turn the shower on, and see why she's hearing drip, drip, okay?
Got it.
Because
Yep,
this is a manageable issue. Even in an old building, it's a manageable issue. Now, Ms. Petrillo, I see that you have filed the lawsuit for $5,000 in punitive damages for them to pay you because of all of the, well, I guess, because the problem still isn't fixed. I understand that you are frustrated. I am not going to order them to pay you $5,000 because the problem is not fixed. I am going to order the management company to pay the $169.95. The real issue, though, is this. We're still hearing a drip. There's still going to be continued problem. And at some point, patience has run thin. And that is why you've been sued with punitive damages. So although I'm not going to order it now, here's what is going to happen. I am going to delay my verdict for 30 days on punitives. 30 days should be plenty of time to get this done. Mr. Barberino, you would agree with me that 5 months should do it, right?
Surely.
Okay. So I will get submissions from all parties in 30 days about how this has ended up being resolved, and I will make my verdict then on the issue of punitives. But I anticipate 100% that I will not have to, because I anticipate that these fine men are going to take care of the problem, and they're going to work on this together. Okay, that's my verdict. But in the meantime, the $169.95, absolutely, and your court costs are going to be reimbursed to you, and then I'll rule on punitives in 30 days. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
So the plaintiff prevails on her damages, the $169. The rest of it, the punitive damages, we'll have to know in 30 days. Let me ask you, Mr. Barberino, you've heard what the judge has said that you guys have to do. You said you would go in there and try and figure it out. You're going to do that?
Sure. These are not easy things to figure out in these old buildings. Like we said, it could be condensation. It could be a tenant issue. The smoking gun was that sewer pipe, and we took care of it.
All right, let me talk to Ms. Petrillo now. Ms. Petrillo, you understand the judge's verdict? You got to submit a bill yet. Apparently you haven't done that. You going to do it?
No, because, I'll submit a bill, but the 169 wasn't important. What was important was that it was repaired.
All right, I know you have a dilemma there, but hopefully it'll get worked out, and we'll find out in 30 days whether you get any punitive damage. I mean, you're wanting $5,000. That's a lot of money. You know that.
Well, I had to worry about my tenants. I had to worry about the ceiling falling. I mean, there were a lot of things going on, and I just had my fill of it. And sometimes you have to do this in order for people to pay attention to you.
Well, I think you got their attention paid, for sure. Congratulations. And that'll do it for this case. Let's join now the judges for another session of After the Verdict.
When you have litigation involving condominiums and condo leaks, sometimes it can be this maelstrom of all these different parties and factors, and you could spend a lot of time as a judge or as a jury trying to figure out who's at fault. Sometimes you'll have these cases where you have owner A in one level, owner B beneath that level, the association that's responsible for common areas. Sometimes they'll plead in the builder, the architect, the engineer, and they're all pointing the fingers at each other. Your fault. No, your fault.
If
no,
I
your
recall
fault.
correctly, that's when you and I stopped living in condos when we first got married, because you said, I've had it. I want one person responsible for everything.
If you are fortunate enough to be able to buy a home or live in a condo,
or rent a home,
it's something to think about, because these kinds of cases, and that's usually step A. You were able to get past that pretty quickly because you were able to sort out where the source of the leak was coming from.
Except that I think that there was a second source of a second leak with the tenant and the tenant's behavior and not putting people's, you're raising a barn if you don't understand that especially after they tell you 100 times, listen, you're causing grief to the person downstairs. I mean, you would think that behavior would stop. So I really wonder, is it the pipe or is it the tenant? I don't know. But I do know that somebody here is going to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And it was kind of, she was so frustrated, wasn't she, the
Yeah,
plaintiff?
very much
She
so.
said, I need it. She was sick
could
and tired
feel
of
her
whining.
pain.
Yeah, she was sick and tired of sending texts and being patient and sending emails.
Right.
And she said, sometimes, and I loved the last thing she said, sometimes you just got to get their attention.
Right, and she's seeking punitive damages. And the reality is punitive damages are something that judges or juries can give to give you a little bit more than the compensatory damages that you normally get in a lawsuit. They're kind of an unusual remedy.
They're
and
rare.
They're rare, and in a lot of jurisdictions, they even require a higher burden of proof, of clear and convincing evidence. But in this instance, it might be the only thing that straightens out the behavior or that sends a message, and that's something that you can accomplish with that.
Well, that's kind of why I'm deferring ruling.
Right.
I'm hoping that
You got the hammer over their head, hanging there, so they'll be motivated.
I hope so.
What's the best way to protect yourself from your landlord keeping your security deposit for no good reason? The best way is that when you move in, you take pictures of every little piece of damage inside the unit. When you move out, you take pictures again, and then you can show the landlord the pre-existing damage. You should also clean the place well. If that happens and you're protected, you should get your security deposit back.